Femi was born to humble beginnings in the heart of Ibadan, a vibrant city in Nigeria. Losing both parents at a tender age, he was taken in by distant relatives who offered him a place in their modest home, but little warmth. His childhood was spent under the strict scrutiny of his aunt, who saw him as more of a burden than a blessing. From a young age, Femi learned to navigate the world largely on his own, seeking comfort in books and the dream of one day escaping his bleak reality. School became his sanctuary, the one place where he felt free and hopeful. Yet, even this haven was laced with challenges. Each day, he walked miles to school, clutching his worn-out backpack and dog-eared books, driven by a relentless thirst for knowledge. His peers mocked his ragged clothes, but Femi was unfazed. His determination was fueled by a vision of himself wearing a graduation cap and gown, a vision that grew brighter with every academic accomplishment. Little did he know, this vision would come at a price far greater than he could imagine. Femi's academic journey was marked by excellence. Despite the financial hardships and emotional void left by his parents, he excelled in every subject, impressing his teachers and winning scholarships that allowed him to continue his education. His relatives barely noticed his achievements, focused as they were on their own lives. But to Femi, every award, every scholarship was a step closer to his dreams. He immersed himself in his studies, convinced that education would be his path to a better life. As the years went by, Femi's academic reputation spread beyond his school. He became known as the boy who would go far, a bright light in a dark world. By the time he reached university, he had earned a full scholarship, an honor that few from his background ever achieved. Femi's dream was no longer just a fantasy. It was becoming his reality. But as his academic accomplishments grew, so did the pressure to maintain them, and this pressure would soon lead him down a dangerous path. University life brought new challenges, but it also introduced Femi to a world of opportunities he had only dreamed of. In his second year, he met Tayo, a charismatic and affluent student with a network of wealthy friends. Tayo was everything Femi was not: confident, well-dressed, and unburdened by financial worries. Fascinated by Tayo's life, Femi was drawn to his magnetic personality and the allure of his wealth. For the first time, Femi began to question if hard work alone was enough to achieve the life he wanted. Tayo and his friends welcomed Femi into their circle, exposing him to a lifestyle he had never experienced. They frequented upscale restaurants, wore designer clothes, and drove luxury cars. Femi's admiration for his new friends soon turned into envy, and he found himself wondering if he too could live like them. The more time he spent with Tayo, the more he felt an urge to abandon his humble origins and embrace a world of comfort and ease. But the cost of this new world would soon become apparent. One evening, Tayo took Femi aside and offered him a proposition. It was a business opportunity, he said, a chance to earn quick money. Femi hesitated, sensing the offer was not entirely legitimate. Tayo explained that he and his friends ran a side hustle involving discreet transactions online. They assured Femi that it was safe, a victimless crime. All he had to do was play a small role, and he would make more money than he had ever imagined. Femi's initial reaction was one of fear and hesitation, but Tayo's persuasive words softened his resolve. After years of struggle and deprivation, the prospect of easy money was tempting. He rationalized that it was just one job, one small compromise. Femi convinced himself that he deserved this after everything he had been through. With a heavy heart but an eager mind, he agreed to join Tayo's scheme, unknowingly stepping into a world from which there would be no easy escape. Once Femi participated in his first fraudulent deal, the money came rolling in. He was able to buy things he had only dreamed of: a new wardrobe, fancy gadgets, and even a used car. For the first time, he felt a sense of belonging among his wealthy friends. He was no longer the poor boy from Ibadan. He was part of the elite circle he once envied. His self-esteem grew, bolstered by his newfound wealth, and he began spending lavishly, impressing his friends with his generosity. But with each transaction, Femi felt a lingering unease. He ignored the gnawing guilt, telling himself that this was the price of success. He rationalized his actions as necessary for survival in a society where the gap between the rich and the poor was painfully vast. However, deep down, he knew he was betraying his principles and the values instilled in him as a child. But the pull of wealth and the desire to fit in were too strong to resist, leading him further down the path of deception. As Femi's wealth grew, so did his social status. He became a regular at exclusive clubs, throwing parties and treating his friends to expensive dinners. He enjoyed the attention and respect that came with his new lifestyle, and for a while, it seemed that he had found the happiness he always sought. He was no longer the quiet, studious boy with big dreams and little means. Instead, he was Femi the Boss, a nickname his friends affectionately used to acknowledge his success. But beneath the surface, Femi was battling inner turmoil. He knew his life was built on lies, and every day he wondered if he would be exposed. The thrill of his new life masked a constant fear that haunted his nights. He clung to his wealth and status as though they were his only means of survival. Yet in moments of solitude, he questioned if this was truly the life he wanted. Femi was losing himself, becoming a stranger to the boy who once dreamed of a better future. Femi's luxurious life was short-lived. One fateful day, the authorities came knocking. A recent investigation had exposed a network of online fraud, and Femi's name was on the list of suspects. He was arrested, his world crashing down around him as he realized the gravity of his actions. His friends vanished, leaving him to face the consequences alone. The money that once flowed so freely was now evidence, a testament to his betrayal of his own values. In prison, Femi had ample time to reflect on his choices. The emptiness he had felt in his wealth-ridden life returned, but now it was accompanied by shame and regret. He thought about his parents and the sacrifices they had made for him to have a better future. Femi knew he had lost sight of the dreams that once fueled him. His only solace was the hope that one day he could redeem himself and rebuild the life he had destroyed. Days turned into weeks, and Femi began to accept his new reality. Behind bars, he encountered others who, like him, had fallen victim to the lure of quick wealth. They shared their stories, and through their pain, Femi saw a reflection of his own mistakes. In the silence of his cell, he resolved to change, to find a way to make amends for the wrongs he had committed. Femi spent his days reading, revisiting the books that had once inspired him to dream. He started mentoring younger inmates, encouraging them to pursue education and avoid the pitfalls he had fallen into. Each story he shared was a reminder of who he once was and who he could be again. For the first time since his arrest, Femi felt a sense of purpose, a glimmer of hope that perhaps, through his experiences, he could guide others toward a better path. Over time, Femi's actions gained him respect within the prison community. His genuine efforts to help others did not go unnoticed. He reached out to his relatives, apologizing for the shame he had brought upon them. It was a difficult process, and many refused to forgive him. Yet, Femi understood that forgiveness was not a right, but a gift, one he would have to earn through continued humility and dedication. As the years passed, Femi grew stronger, both mentally and spiritually. He had lost the life he once dreamed of, but he had gained a new understanding of himself. His journey to forgiveness was long, but with each passing day, he felt a renewed sense of hope. Femi no longer defined himself by his mistakes, but by his resolve to make a positive difference in the lives of others. He had lost everything, yet in doing so, he had rediscovered the essence of who he was. After several years, Femi's good behavior and contributions to the prison community earned him a reduced sentence. On the day of his release, he felt a mix of anxiety and hope. The world outside had changed, and he knew he would have to rebuild his life from scratch. He stepped out of the prison gates with only a few belongings and the resolve to make amends. Femi's past would always be with him, but he was determined not to let it define his future. Returning to Ibadan was difficult. He faced the stares of people who knew his story and heard whispers of his fall from grace. Femi found solace in staying busy. He took up odd jobs and saved diligently, focusing on creating a modest but honest life. His dreams of wealth had faded, replaced by a longing for stability and peace. He was content with his small victories, grateful for a second chance to live with integrity. One of the hardest parts of Femi's new life was reconnecting with his relatives. They had cut ties with him after his arrest, embarrassed by the shame his actions had brought to the family. Femi understood their resentment. He knew he had let them down, but he also hoped that in time he could regain their trust. With each visit, he approached them humbly, asking only for a chance to prove that he had changed. Slowly, his family began to soften. His aunt, who had once been cold and distant, started to see the man he had become. She noticed the humility in his eyes, the way he carried himself with quiet dignity. Though forgiveness came slowly, it was genuine, and with it came a new bond between them. For the first time in years, Femi felt a sense of belonging, a feeling he had once searched for in wealth, but now found in the warmth of his family. With his family relationships mending, Femi began to search for a greater purpose. He found himself drawn to helping others, particularly young people who reminded him of his younger self. He understood the struggles of poverty and the allure of quick money, and he wanted to share his story as a warning. Femi began volunteering at local youth centers, speaking to teenagers about the dangers of fraud and the importance of integrity. His story resonated with them. They saw in him someone who had lived through the consequences of bad decisions, and they listened to his words with respect. Femi found fulfillment in guiding these young people, knowing that his painful past had given him the wisdom to help others. Through his efforts, he felt his purpose was finally clear, and for the first time, he no longer viewed his prison sentence as a punishment, but as a turning point. As he continued his work, Femi realized that his journey wasn't just about gaining the forgiveness of others. He had to forgive himself for the choices he had made, for the dreams he had compromised. This was perhaps his hardest challenge, as the shame of his past weighed heavily on him. Every time he looked in the mirror, he saw not only the man he had become, but also the man he had once been. With time, Femi learned to accept himself fully. He acknowledged his mistakes, but no longer allowed them to control his present. He began each day with a silent prayer for strength and forgiveness, reminding himself that his worth was not defined by his failures, but by his resilience. Slowly, Femi found peace within, a quiet assurance that he was on the right path, no matter how long it had taken him to find it. Though Femi's ambitions had once centered around wealth and status, he now dreamed of something different, a life of impact and meaning. His success was no longer measured by material possessions, but by the lives he touched. He set his sights on opening a small community center, a safe space where young people could learn, seek guidance, and grow. It was a modest dream, but to Femi, it was more fulfilling than any riches he had once desired. With the support of his family and friends, Femi started fundraising for the center. People who had once distanced themselves from him now saw his commitment to change. Donations trickled in, small but significant, each one a step closer to his dream. Femi knew he was finally creating a legacy he could be proud of, a legacy built on hope, not deception. Years passed, and Femi's community center became a beacon of hope in Ibadan. Young people came from all over the city, drawn by the promise of mentorship and support. Femi welcomed each of them with open arms, remembering his own journey and the mentors who had believed in him. He shared his story openly, holding nothing back, in the hope that his honesty would steer others away from the mistakes he had made. Femi's legacy grew not from fame or fortune, but from the lives he changed. He watched with pride as his mentees graduated from school, started businesses, and became leaders in their communities. His life had come full circle, from a boy with lost dreams to a man whose purpose was to restore the dreams of others. The road had been hard, filled with loss and regret, but in the end, Femi found redemption in the very community he once left behind. Femi's journey teaches us that the pursuit of wealth without integrity leads only to despair, while a life lived with honesty and purpose brings fulfillment beyond measure. True success is not about riches or status, but the values we uphold and the positive impact we leave on the lives of others. Femi's story serves as a reminder that mistakes do not define us. Rather, it is our willingness to learn from them, to grow, and to change that shapes our true legacy. In a world where shortcuts and quick gains are often tempting, Femi's life is a testament to the power of resilience, humility, and the courage to rebuild. He lost his dreams, but found a purpose far richer, inspiring generations to choose integrity over the fleeting allure of easy wealth. For anyone facing challenges, his story offers hope that even in our darkest moments, we can find a path toward redemption, wisdom, and a life of true meaning.